this is what you make paper out of. And then this long fiber here, you'll comb this out, and then you'll make cloth, you'll make rope, you can weave it into rope. And back in literally the caveman days, back 20,000, maybe even 40,000 years ago, the Neolithic people would find hemp growing, they would break that long fiber off, and then they would braid it. And I actually made this. This probably takes me about an hour to make this. And I'm not all that nimble with it, but that's, here, give that a good pull there. It's pretty stout stuff, so yeah, pass that around there. So I want it back, but I'll take it. But, so, it's a fantastic crop. The nice thing about this, when you plant it, it out-competes all your weeds. So, if, like as a farmer, the big problem that we have now is Roundup Ready resistance that's getting into the weeds. But if you were to plant a crop of hemp, just by the nature of this stuff growing, when you plant it in mid-May, it out-competes, it races out of the ground, and it just comes up. So it's going to block the Canadian thistle and all your other invasive plants and everything that cause problems for farmers. And it gets tall, it gets about that tall, and then in this area, and then you come through with a harvester and you cut that seed head off. And each plant will give you about a pound to a pound and a half of really good quality seed. And then you have this left over because the Canadians don't have any fiber industry up there, so they usually just cut this, lay it to the side, maybe burn it, maybe let it compost for a few years. And so I called my contact up there and I said, I'd like to actually import some stalks, to which they said, good luck. Your government's never going to let you come in and bring hemp. And then, so I thought, okay, I'm going to try it from my end and everything. And I actually called Detroit because it was the closest way to go up there. And Customs and Border Patrol said, well, if you want to import hemp, you got to talk to DEA. So they hooked me up at the DEA office. DEA, poor guy at the DEA, he's like, you want to bring in hemp? No way! THC contamination? No way, no way! And so I said, well, if I were to bring it in, what office would I go through? And they said Department of Agriculture. So I called Department of Agriculture in Washington and talked to a nice guy down there who told me that the reason we can't grow hemp in the United States is a big conspiracy and everything, honest to God. And but he said, good luck trying to get it through. And I called some folks at the Hemp Industry Association, and they said, talk to this lady at Cornell Law Review. She sent me some information back and everything, and I had some numbers, and they were called Harmonized Trade and Tariff numbers that a company went through great expense to get back in 1995. And so I had those numbers. I called Customs and Border Patrol, and once I had the numbers, they said, well, it looks like you can actually import this. And so I said, okay, great, what do I need to do? They said, you need to have this form, that form, put this HSTT number on it, and you should be okay. And I said, well, okay, I'm going to be coming through with probably about a van load, and so I know it's going to smell like pot, and I don't want Customs to get all excited, and I don't want to get the dogs, you know, the sniffer dogs all excited and everything. So I said, can I work out a protocol with somebody? And so I actually talked to them. I found out who the shift supervisor was going to be at Peacebridge in Buffalo. For a lot of reasons, I just wanted to go through Buffalo and everything. And so I went up around, went to Detroit, got the load in Canada. But first, in order to make it okay with Customs and Border Patrol, they said you got to take all the leaves and all the seeds off, because you can't have that, because this is the only part of the plant that you can have whole, is the stalk, the raw stalk. And so I called my contact and I said, I'm going to come up a little early because I got to strip off the leaves and the seed heads. And my contact said, you got to understand, there's a lot of leaf, because we don't mess with it. We just let it sit at the side of the field. And so I said, but I got some friends from my church that can help you for like $10 an hour. And so that day, I got up there early, and some of the folks from the Tavistock Baptist Church were up there, nice retired folks, and they had their gloves and they're stripping leaves. And I mean, we had everyone where they were standing, there was a pile about a couple of feet tall and wide where they had been stripping the leaves off and everything. And it ended up that all of them, it was like 34 hours, so $340 Canadian, and then I had to load legal to come into the States. And people talk about the federal government being, oh, they're hard to work with, but I want to say Customs and Border Patrol, they gave me a procedure, they told me what I needed to do, and when I presented my form to them at the desk, they were actually excited to see me because nobody ever came through and declared I've got marijuana ready for inspection. And literally there's 14 officers sitting in the corner as I came up because I had called ahead because like I said, I don't want to surprise anyone and they got more important work to do. And so they came through, it passed inspection, and I came home, and then I felt like the dog, like dogs chase cars, and they're always running. And it's like, and I always used to wonder, it's like, what is the dog going to do with that car or that truck when they catch it? So I got home literally and looked in the back of the truck the next morning, and it was like, now I know how that dog feels. I got the car. What am I going to do with it? So why don't we have an auction? How does that sound? So this is literally legal federal cannabis, other than the stuff they grow for medical marijuana for just a limited amount of patients. So would anybody be interested in bidding on this? Can I hear an opening bid? And if not, I can save it for another fundraiser and stuff. So, but no open. Okay, I'll tell you what. You guys, I'll give you guys each a stick to take home. All right? How does that sound? So,
cool.
Okay, sounds good. All right.